Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 249. Today we're going to talk about Madeira or Madeira. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I think you can pronounce it either way. This is a somewhat new game from What's Your Game. It was released last year at Essen, I believe, but hasn't really hit stateside until just recently on this side. It's a Euro game, but it is one of those kind of weird Euros that sits in a strange spot. Now you've got kind of your really Euro-y Euros, like your Fells, your Kinesias, things like that. You've also got like your economic games, like that. This one is almost like a hybrid of like a Euro elements, lots of high strategy, heavy, complex decisions, but built on, I want to say a lot of rules, but there's not a ton of rules in here, but it is a beast to digest. But once you get into it, it actually really plays, very smoothly there. So it's kind of a hybrid between sort of a Euro and a thematic, or sort of an Ameritrash. I'm trying not to call it Eurotrash because that's a very derogatory term, for actual people. But this is, it's kind of in that weird vein of there's a lot of sort of interlocking mechanisms and stuff, kind of like a Feld or something. But it has some thematic layering and different sort of, elements of the game that are going to merge above and beyond the mechanics that really kind of steep you in the theme a little bit there. So without going too much into more of that mumbo jumbo, let's jump into talk about how it works, some of the different mechanics that are going to be happening in the game. Then I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, so I've gone ahead and set up the board as if it were a 3-player game. And as you can see, there's a lot of different areas to, place workers and move ships and all kinds of good stuff. There's some actual geography here, land areas. You can see there's different resources that are going to be sort of farmed out of these areas. You've got a city region here with some guild tiles. These are randomly dealt out. You've got areas for your workers to go out here. You've got a couple of different sort of marketplace and sort of foreign colonies that you're going to be delivering your grapes or your wine to. And then up here we have a sort of action selection board. You can see up here on that side there's the player disc there. They'll be choosing actions and taking some different things up there at the beginning of the round. There's a lot of sort of interlocking things that are going to happen here, and the rules are actually really well written. The one thing that wasn't obvious to me the first time is it does a lot of explaining to you what the different things are and kind of how they work, and then it kind of re-explains it again in sort of a turn flow and how a turn might work. So that's a little bit off-putting, but it makes it for a decent reference to go back and see how different things work. So it's a little bit to consume on your first play, but once you get that out of the way, then you can go in and play it, and it actually works very well, and it works in a very kind of thematic in a way that at least it kind of makes sense given what you're doing here. And what you're doing is basically trying to be a good businessman in this period of time in Portugal, kind of get the favors of different guilds and the favor of the crown overall. So let's go through kind of a basic round, kind of tell you what you're going to be doing. I'm not going to get super into detail because that will definitely push this over the 30 to 40 minute mark. But I will definitely give you a good sense. Now, the nice thing about the game is it gives you these double-sided player aids, gives you 2 of these, and you can walk through your turn pretty basically here. So let's just take a quick look through here, give you a real general sense of what's going to happen. Then I'll get into it a little bit more detail, then I'll get into the review portion. So you see here, you're going to shuffle up these character tiles here. So there's only 4 of these in the game, and there's 5 of these sort of city slots here. Now the first one up here, let's take a quick look and zoom over there. You can see there that says round 1 over here. So there's the round number there. And you can see this is actually empty, doesn't have any character slot. So in the next round, we're going to shuffle up these character guys again there and then deal them out. There'll be a guy on this one, but once we get into round 2 over here, you can see that round marker there. That one won't have it. It will be back to its default action, as it were. So that's the first thing you're going to do around is reshuffle up those character tiles, assign them to different areas. Now the reason that's important is you can see we've got a big 1, a big 2, and a big 3 there. There's basically 3 big regions in the game, and there's also this wood region here in the middle, which kind of is sort of like the king's forest, if you will. And if you want wood, it's a good idea to have a guy in there. So these numbers here correspond to the dice we're going to use. So it's kind of like a dice placement kind of thing, but there's a lot more going on besides that. So it's interesting that how these are going to be worked out. And this is going to make more sense here when we look at this next phase here. So here we've got the guild board, and this is going to be the first thing that you're going to have to make a decision on every round. So here you've got discs and the player colors here. Here's sort of the turn order and the selection that's going to happen. You're going to roll sets of 3 dice here. And so this is a 3-player game. You can see there's 3 rows. You've got a setup here for 4 players, and there's a 2-player setup on the back side of this here. So what you're going to do here in player order is you're going to choose one of these sets of dice here. And you're going to want to choose the dice that have a higher value number. So you can see you've got 2 3s up here and a 2. That's a good choice as well. But the other thing that you're going to do here is you're going to choose one of these little bonus tiles here. And at the end of rounds 1, 3, and 5, you're going to have to score these. And so you're going to have to sort of tack your strategy to meet these different goals. I'll explain a little bit of what this iconography is here in a second. But you're also going to have to keep in mind, you can see sometimes they can duplicate and end up on the same row. Sometimes you want to score multiples, of the same type. Some will be for the amount of ships you have out. Some will be, for spending money and things. So sometimes you can kind of go for a strategy, at least try to, and really sort of abuse, a certain type of these bonus tiles. So that's going to be a big part of your decision is here, not just the dice that you choose. The other thing here is you can see these little icons here, and these basically are crests that match certain guilds. So throughout the game, I'll explain these a little bit later, you're going to be acquiring these guild tiles. These are going to give you bonuses and things. So whenever you take a set of dice that matches one of your guild tiles that you have, you're going to be able to sort of unflip or untap these, because as you use them, you got to put them face down. And then if you choose a row here at the beginning of the round, you can be able to untap these special abilities here. So players will then go and let's say we'll just move it straight across. For argument's sake, you're going to grab these here. Later on in the round when you pass, you're going to go over here. You're going to get a little bit of a bonus. So if you pass and want to go first next turn, you get $2. And if you go here, you can place a worker in the city, get a point, and then get $3. Or all the way down here, if you pass and want to go last, you can put out a ship and get $5. But again, that will set up the turn order for the following turn. So you're going to take your dice here, and then also grab one of these bonus tiles that you're going to try to score hopefully in the future. And then now you can see we've got sort of phase B and C of the game here. There's sort of a 2-part action step of placing the dice and then kind of removing the dice and doing sort of a secondary action to your first action. And then you've got some different phases here, sort of clean up, some scoring of points. Different things will happen here. But let's talk about here this phase B first. This is going to be placing the dice that you required up there from the guild board. Now let's say I was lucky enough to get this 3, 3, and 2 dice here. So what this means is that you can place these dice on these different characters here. So you've got 5 different characters to choose from. Now you can only place the die on a spot that this is equal to or higher than. So we can put these 3s anywhere we want. So we can put them in these characters that are in the 3 region, and the 2 and the 1. Now we've got the 2 here. We can't normally place this on any of the characters in the 3 region. We can place them only on the 2 and the 1. But you can break that rule by paying bread. So if I wanted to place this 2 on one of the 3 spots, I can pay a bread and then bump that up. If I had a 1, then I could pay 2 bread and I'd be able to get it up to the 3 and so on. Now you can see here there's another type of die that we rolled up here, and these are pirate dice. And so these are black and these are very interesting, but you can also have the option of placing these as well. So what's going to happen when you place either the pirate dice or one of your guild dice on these characters? Well, let's just take this guy here as an example. Now on any given character there can be a maximum total dice equal to the number of players. So in a 3-player game we can only have 3 total dice here. So let's say somebody paid some bread, was able to get that 1 on there. Now whenever you play one of your dice on there, you have to put these little square tokens here in your color like so. So maybe red put 2 dice on here or something. I'm just doing this, and then maybe the purple guy came and put a dice on there. So you're going to mark that you were one of the guys that sort of used the services of this character here. Now there can also be a maximum of 1 pirate dice. So the total number of dice has to equal or be less than the number of players, and you can only ever have 1 pirate die in there. There's an interesting thing with the pirate dice. Now if you put the pirate dice, you don't put one of your colored markers down there, but it's almost kind of a way of getting a free action without using one of your dice, and also possibly screwing up over other folks that went there. I'll explain that a little bit more. Now when you place a pirate die on one of these spots, you've got to remove one of your workers here from this city watch area, and that's what this area is called, where you're going to roll and put the pirate dice every round. Now players will start the game off with 2 in this spot, but you do want to try to have the majority, which I'll talk about in a second. It gives you some more options as well. But whenever you place one of these black dice, your penalty is that you have to sort of remove one of your characters there from the city watch. So why are you trying to put the dice here? So let's take a look at this guy's action here. So he's got an action here. Basically, you can put 2 of your workers out on to the different fields here. Now you can't ever have a worker of your own on the same field that you already have one. But you can, place them from your stock supply out onto the board here. You are going to end up feeding them, which I'll talk about in a second. So, you got to know that as you put more workers out, you're going to have to feed them. But you can also move them around, which is nice. You can kind of get them out of a spot where they're not being as useful as they could be. And I kind of like how it treats that whole idea of feeding your workers. It seems to me to work maybe the best out of any game in a sense. So I'll talk about that more in the review, but that's a little bit more interesting how they do that. So you have this here, so you can do that action. Now the other thing you can do that all of these characters have under there is this little harvest deal. And so any spot that you have in this hooked up region here, you can harvest from that field. Now here you can see, maybe yellow can harvest some of this grain here. Now if somebody was in this spot here, you have to actually harvest the wood down first. So you can take the wood off of here, and then once you get to there, you can then start harvesting your sugar cane as well. You can see here these little numbers here basically tell you how much wood to put on there based on the number of players. If we look over here, I believe, yes, this one at certain rounds will flip into being a sugar cane. So no longer will it be wheat, but it will turn into sugar cane. So that's kind of an interesting idea there. So here we've got the mayor, and in here you can relocate some of your workers in the city, and you can actually relocate some of these neutral workers here. You can see you start with some workers already in the city. You're going to be able to collect certain amounts of goods here based on where you have workers at. So for every one of your workers in this spot, you get 2 bread. For every neutral worker, you get 1 bread. Here you get some coin. Here you get some wood, like so. Here we've got the guild master. Here you can see that you're going to be able to buy these different guild tiles. You can see that costs different amounts of wood there. You're going to take that off and clear that there. You can see this is starting to clear off spots here for more workers as well to start appearing in the city, like so. And these guild tiles do a bunch of different things, different special abilities and actions. The game does come with a nice thing here. So you can see here the different bonus tiles that you can get. Remember when you choose the dice, you get the bonus tiles. They've got all these marked here, as well as what all the different guild tiles will do as well. Finally, we've got this guy here. He's going to let you move your ships around, and so we've got some different spots down here where we can have our ships out. If you do put a new ship on the board, then you're going to have to pay a 1 wood to be able to do that. Now the interesting thing about wood is how it works in this game. If you need wood for anything, then this is sort of a conversion chart. Now the only way you can get wood is if you're on a spot, let's see down here, that has some wood left on it, or you have a wood worker in this wood forest here. Then only at the time that you need to do the conversion, at the time of purchase, then you do this conversion here, and then you can pay that much money to get that much wood there. So it's not something you can do willy-nilly, but at the time of purchase, like, oh, I need 3 wood, well, I can pay $6, and the guys go out and then they cut down all the trees and they give me the wood back. So this is a cool little chart here, and there's also the reminder there that you got to pay 1 wood per ship. So if you didn't have any wood, then you could pay $1, let's say if you had a guy in one of those spots, and then put the ship out. That's a quick rundown of most of what you can do in that action. And then what you can do is you're going to go into phase C, which are the building actions. You can see the building actions are these little spaces here that are under the character card. So let's zoom in here. We can see this guy. So we had some activity here. And so now we're going to look at these building actions at the bottom of each of these spots, like so. Now the building's only going to be activated if there's actually some action markers on there. So some people have actually put some of their green guild dice on there. Now, this is a very, very interesting part of the game to tie into part of your decision making on the previous phase. What you're going to do here is actually going to roll these dice like so. Take and re-roll them. So there we've got 5 and then 3 on the pirate dice. Now what this is showing you is actually the cost that it's going to cost both of these players to be able to activate this building action. Now if you have more than 1 marker, it's fine, you just do it the 1 time. And if you want, you don't actually even have to do the action, but you definitely want to try to at least pay the cost. So if we look over here, we see this chart up here. So we're in a 3-player game. So we're going to take $9 minus the 5 that we rolled, which is $4. So that means that we're going to go over here, and that's going to cost $4 to be able to activate this spot. And every spot has this where they've got a 1 worker and a 3 worker. What that means is for the workers that you have in his attached region here. So we're going to look at all of the regions here in workers in region 3, and you're going to count up. So if I have 1 worker, then I can do this action. If I have 3, I can do this. Now if you don't have the money or don't want to pay, then you're going to get pirates, and pirates are very bad. I'll explain what they are, but they're basically going to hose you up at the end of the game. So you're going to collect pirates here. Now the amount of pirates you're going to collect is basically the number on the pirate die plus 1. So if you couldn't pay the $4, you get 4 pirates. So let's walk through all these different actions real quickly. So this one allows you to flip up your guild tiles. So it's another way to kind of untap them, reactivate them. So you can flip up 1 or 2. If you activate this, you can move 1 character to the City Watch, which is again over here. Or you can move 2 if you have 3 workers. And here you can collect 2 or 5 bread based on the number of workers in that region. Here's where you can get new workers into the city. You can move 1 guy in there, you get a point. 2 guys in there, you get 3 points. And here's where you can actually move some of your workers out into the colony. So here's a spot here where you'll be putting ships and things, but you can actually get your workers out on these different land spaces here. You just kind of throw them out there on there. And then you're going to get points then for each ship that you have there. And then at the end of the round, you're going to collect for each of the workers in the different spots. You're going to collect those resources out of the general supply. So they're going to kind of be out doing work for you in the colonies there. So this is kind of an interesting area. I kind of glossed over it earlier, but basically going to be moving ships out here, paying the different resources and things. Here you're going to be able to take these different bonus actions, and then down here in the market you're going to be able to get different gold and things here. So that was a little bit of a gist of the main action phases B and C there. Now we're going to kind of go into sort of our maintenance and cleanup. So we're going to look over here at the City Watch. Whoever has the most is going to get 4 points, and then move 1 of their guys out. Again, these guys are going to collect resources for the different spots there. You're going to have to pay a wood for every ship, and if you can't, you're going to take the pirate points, the penalty points, and you have to feed each of your workers with the bread. And then at the end of rounds 1, 3, and 5, you're going to try to score those different guild tiles. And you can see at rounds 2, then the sugarcane is going to go to wheat, and then the grapes are going to go to sugarcane in round 4, and those spots are indicated on the board there. And then you can see here at the end of the game, just real quickly, whoever has the most pirates is going to lose 16 points. All the way down to whoever has the least pirates can lose 2 points. If you don't have any pirates, you don't lose any points though. And then you're also going to get some money for the different resources, and then every $5 is a point. So let's quickly go over some of the ways you're going to score points with some of those bonus tiles up there. I'm not really going to get into the guild tiles. These are really a big part of the game. There's a lot of cool kind of little combo-y kind of things you can do. There's also up here, I didn't mention it, it's a pretty cool little thing. You're going to kind of track here, and this is a way to kind of generate bread and convert things into different resources. You can do that at different times in the different phases of the game. So that's kind of a way that you can sort of automatically make bread as well. If you kind of move up there, it's sort of like the farm track in a Stone Age, if you will. So you don't have to necessarily have the bread on hand. You're going to automatically make certain amounts of bread every round. So let's take a look at some of the bonus tiles there, and then I'll kind of explain more to that, and then branch into the review part. So there's 5 different bonus tiles, and the interesting thing about this is they kind of relate to the different aspects of the game. So the cool thing about this game, I'm going to talk a little bit review here, is it feels Euro-y in the fact that there's a lot of interlocking mechanisms, but because there's a nice representation of geography and the city works a little bit differently, than these other parts, it's not too abstract and not too streamlined, and the fact that you sort of have to kind of tack your strategy based on your selection of what you're going to be trying to scoring, because remember rounds 1, 3, and 5 you're going to be scoring. Well, if we take a look at this here, you're actually going to score only 1 bonus tile. So the first round you're going to grab a bonus tile, and then you're going to be able to score it. And I should say players will also be dealt randomly some bonus tiles that can help set up turn order, but you'll be able to score 1 of those. And then in round 3 you're going to score 2. In round 5 you're going to score 3 of them. So it's not like you're going to really try to neglect one thing or the other, but you definitely are going to sort of project a little bit of your strategy and what you're going to do, because these tiles relate to the different areas on the board and the different strategies that are available in the game. So this first tile here, this is based on the market here. So if we zoom in, you can see the market's going to have different scoring for the different rounds. So in round 1, if you chose that one, then you could get 3 points, 6 points, and then 4 points. Now you can choose up to 3 of your ships here. So you can see on the tile here it shows 3 ships. So you could have all 3 in one spot. So maybe it's better in round 1 to have them all here, so you get 6, 6, and 6. Or in round 5 you have them here, so you can get 4 per. And so you can pick, all in different territories you want. So you want to have a bunch of ships out here at least when you score that. Now the expeditions, which is this one here, you're going to pick 3 of your ships, which are going to be up here in the colonies area there. And again, you can see the same kind of thing where you're scoring the points there. So not only you're trying to, look at the bonus actions you can take, look down here for the amount of money that you're going to get in that area, you're also going to want to be considering where you're putting them if you have these sort of as a bonus tile there. So this one here, this is based on the number of guild tiles that you have, the number of different ones, and those obviously you get in the city. So for each a different one, you're going to get 5 points up to 4 there. And so this one here, you basically can pay up to 15 bucks, and you get a point for each buck that you're going to pay. So that's kind of interesting there. And then this one here, this is going to be for the city of your choice. So if you see here, you've got your 3 cities, and then if you have the most when you score this, you're going to get the left-hand number, the bigger number. If you don't have the most, then you just get some consolation points. So as you can see, there's a lot of interlocking mechanisms. It's not too overwhelming. I hope that was enough of a streamlined overview. I missed a couple of things, but nothing too bad. So let's go into the review. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. Now, harkening back to my initial idea, this is sort of a thematic Euro. So let me talk about some of the things that make it so. First thing is, yes, there's a lot of interlocking, somewhat complex mechanisms, but you can see a very visual sort of change happen on the board. The wood's going to go down, the crops are going to kind of change, the city's going to kind of grow and get more space. At the end of the game, there's actually sort of a rush to the city sometimes, because as that space has grown up and you've kind of farmed out the countryside, if you will. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic that's going to happen as well. The other thing that's kind of cool is, instead of recent Euros where you have start with 2 workers, worker placement thing, you get a 3rd guy, then you get a 4th guy, and you kind of build up, and that's all part of your engine. This isn't like that. You get a swap of guys and ships, and you can put as many or as little out as you want. So remember, you got to pay for them. You got to pay them bread or wood for the ships. So you are basically managing in a very natural way what your company's doing, what your focus is doing. And yeah, that's going to be driven by the bonus tiles and things, but you can totally play around with that. You can, let's add some more. I feel like I'm going to get enough bread this time. Or maybe I'll kind of shift, priorities here. I can have a bunch of guys out of the colonies, send them between the different colonies. I can, send them between markets or between the markets and the colonies, and send my ships around and kind of do different things and try to snag some of these different bonuses and things. So it's very organic in that way. It's not sort of constrained by the mechanics, which is weird because the game has a lot of mechanics. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing that I really like is the dice placement. I cannot stress enough how interesting this part is. This is not just like, oh, somebody redid some mechanized, whatever dice thing. The cool thing is, and you gotta hear this part, is, so I put my dice down, my guild dice. And so I'm in there kind of by myself now, because remember, you subtract the number from the guild dice from a certain fixed amount. So on a 3-player game, it's $9 minus whatever dice you roll. Well, there's only one dice, it's only going to be $3 at most. So that's going to be more expensive. So if somebody goes in there, I'm like, oh, cool, he's in there already. I can go in there, we're going to roll both of those dice, so we're going to subtract probably, not always, even more from that base amount. But then you also have the other aspect, you can kind of go in there with the pirate dice. And so you have that sort of weird, that way that interlocks is sort of like you kind of pay off the police. So as you add more guild dice, it's going to make it cheaper, but then you can really, kind of turn the tables, throw the pirate dice in there, and then now people are afraid to go there because they might have to get a lot of pirates if they can't pay off the full amount to use that building action. And those building actions are kind of your underlying engine of getting bread and moving workers and things. So I like how that kind of thing interacts. Now it is weird that they call it pirates because there's no pirating in the ocean part of it. It's all based in this area, so, but whatever, that's fine. That's a very minor nitpick. So you kind of have these 2 elements there. of, you know, you got your combos and stuff too of all of the different guild tiles. And that's the one part I kind of glossed over just in the interest of time, but there's going to be a big part of that is sort of working those combos, breaking the rules, you know, getting bread, extra bread, you know, moving guys around sort of out of turn, getting things cheaper, discarding your pirates, all kinds of cool stuff. So there's got that sort of combo aspect of it that you can play with, you know, from game to game and experiment with those different types of guilds. But then you have the sort of naturally sort of evolving environment here, all at the same time while having that real heavily mechanized Euro thing happening. So I think it sits in a very unique spot there. And yeah, that's kind of it. The other game that I have that originally came from these guys is Vinos, which I have the Z-Man edition, but I believe started with What's Your Game? So I think if you're a Vinos fan, this would definitely be right up your alley. I think this is definitely at least as strong as Vinos in that regard. Graphically, you know, it's across the board excellent. I like all the different pieces, the wood, the money, all that stuff is really cool. So, let me get back to it. It's got that interlocking Euro sort of, you know, twist your brain. If I do this, you know, what does that decision mean? Sort of spiraling out from that, you know, versus what am I giving up over here? But it has some of that nice thematic integration. And it's a little bit more freeform. Like I said, it's kind of tricking you because you're like, oh, I'm locked into these tight mechanics and I can't really get my way out of them. But because they kind of allow you to sort of move around, and there's a little bit of risk involved, which is interesting. But, you know, very mitigatable, if you will. So it's got a lot of interesting new things happening for it. So definitely take a look at this. I know it's coming out at the time of this video, stateside, relatively readily available. I don't know how many copies they printed, but, you know, I think it's a fair amount. So take a look at it. Madeira. Thanks.